Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Crashers podcast. My name is Shut Up Ted. That's Tom. That's Mike. And our special guest today is Nicole Hoffman. Very excited to chat with her today. She's got a photography studio in New Jersey. She's really, really proficient with her systems. She uses a CRM that she's going to talk about tonight that really helps her automate a lot of things. And
Ted, you could stop at her name.
Yeah, man. You want to let her talk? You fuck.
Welcome to the Wedding Crashers podcast.
Hey, Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
You just gave everything about her.
All right, show's
Do you want my social security number too?
It was nice having you.
It's nice having you. Goodbye.
It's like her foot size is this. She won honor roll in 5th grade. Whatever.
No, definitely not.
Nice.
So
that was the best intro ever. You're welcome.
I like
all in
you
one
got
breath.
to stop at the shut up, and then we'll reset and do it again.
No,
You just went with it. You just went with
do
it.
it 3 or 4 times.
No, keep going.
That's my goal, is just make you do it a couple times.
Yeah,
So why don't you tell us about your business? Tell us what you do and how you got into it.
So I am a primarily wedding photographer. I do some portraits, not a ton. And I'm based in Waretown, which is in Ocean County. Grew up in the area in Barnegat. Went to Southern. I think Mike, are you the only one that went to Southern here? No, Tommy?
You do, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did go to Southern. Sorry, I was testing my mic.
No. Yeah, I know. I thought so. But yeah, so where do I begin? So I started my business in 2013 officially. But 2012, I shot my first wedding, just kind of for a friend, and kind of got into it accidentally after law school. So not really using that degree, but,
Thanks.
But yeah, so I shoot weddings, and then I'm trying to get kind of out of most of the family portrait stuff, and sticking mainly just to weddings now. But
That's tough once you're in, right? To like once you have that like referral base and it's going.
Yeah, and I hate turning them down. And so that's why I still do, like I just did a maternity session for a bride and groom of mine. But then they're like asking me about newborn photography. And I'm like, no, I stop there. I will not do anything past the maternity, or I'll do family portraits later, but I won't do anything from like newborn to like 6 months.
Bring them back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't advertise family portraits like on my website, or, like I try not to like share a lot of sneak peeks from them on social media. Maybe I'll do like one from a session just to, show the clients some stuff. But yeah, I'm trying not to, kind of that whole idea of not putting out,
That's kind of
putting out what you want to attract kind of thing.
That's kind of a funny thing with like posting on social media. Like sometimes I'll post something that like I don't want to shoot, and I shot it for somebody as like a favor, or because they were past client of something else. And I feel like I have to post it, so I don't ever want anybody to feel bad that I didn't post their photos. Be like, oh, did they not like my photos? Did they not think I'm, like good looking enough to post, or like what is that? And that's probably like a far out there idea, but I don't ever want to have to address that. So I'm like, yep, I post at least one thing from everything.
Oh no, I'm sure, because clients, I'm sure you guys get like the text messages, like, I can't wait to see the photos, or I can't wait to see, the work, or a sneak peek, or a highlight video, or whatever it is. And I feel like sometimes like they're like sitting there on social media, like waiting for that preview.
So I do the opposite of what most people do. I actually wait for them to tell me when to put it online. Which is weird, but I know we have a lot of clients that I've had that has been something that they were attracted to. I don't know, just depending on their jobs and stuff like that. So it kind of alleviates that. Why didn't I see me online? Well, because you never told me to put you online yet.
Ted, you got an email about that recently too, right? From like a wedding from like 5 years ago or something like that.
Oh yeah. So, actually I started the same time Nicole did. I think I started the business in 2011, but I didn't really shoot a wedding until 2012.
Did you just try to one-up Nicole?
No, I'm just,
wow,
I'm
dude.
related.
Wow.
We have something in common.
Actually, we are Nikon, aren't we?
Yes, yeah. The best brand, better than Tommy's brand.
I know you guys like to make fun of Nikon, but
No. We like to make fun of Ted.
We like to make fun of Ted's one card slot. That's it.
Yeah.
Ted shoots
Oh,
on
I have one of those right here,
Is it
but I don't use
big?
it professionally.
And by the way, though, I will say I got to shoot on that camera for photo and video, and it is amazing. If it had the
It
two
is
card
awesome.
slots, it is so cool.
I've
Well,
used it on
it's-
one session, but I used that and my 850. Like
Nice.
a little bit of both.
We make
just
fun
to-
of it, but I use Ted as a second shooter for me when I have a thing. Like I trust the camera. We just like make fun of it.
Yeah. No,
I
I know.
wouldn't.
I'm not
use it.
offended. I'm not
too
offended.
Psychotic to use one card slot,
I
but
am.
yeah, you should be. You should be.
I forgot what I was even saying. Oh,
It's personal.
so my
2011.
bride- yeah, but my first wedding was in 2012. I think my third or fourth or fifth wedding was 2013. And one of my favorite couples of all time. They've become great friends. Her mom loves my work so much. She follows everything I do throughout the years. And, you know, when you're first starting out photography, as you go on, you get better. And so you're not as proud of the stuff you shot in the beginning because it's not as good as what you're doing now.
Delete.
Yeah. So, I mean, even though I love the couples, they love their photos, it was great. I just don't post a lot of ever really photos from that wedding because it was 2013. Well, the mom every couple of years will message me and say, "Hey, you're doing great work. I wish you could post some photos of my daughter." And I'm like, okay. So the other day she did it again because we've been posting a ton. My wife took over Instagram. And so I went back and found the photos from that wedding and I re-edited them with my current like profile and presets and all that stuff. And they look pretty decent. I was pretty happy with them. So we put some up and I tagged her in it and she was happy.
So do you go back and do you usually like share photos from weddings that long ago?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No, that was
I go
on
back
my
and
I
first
can't even
hard
keep
drive.
up with like last month.
Am I the only person who calls my Instagram? Like I go back and delete the stuff that I'm like, oh, that doesn't.
Oh yeah, no, I do
represent
that. Yeah, I do
Like,
that.
get
for
out of
sure.
I should.
I do that.
You definitely should. No, I'm kidding.
No, I should.
My first wedding was for free, and it did not go well. It was like my first wedding, and I told the people, hey, I'm new. I don't have that much skill yet. I'll do everything for free because I'm trying to practice. And they were like in their 60s. They were getting like a second marriage, and they were cool with it. Yeah.
Well, luckily they probably have poor vision, so
they still leave reviews.
I didn't have any place to leave a review at the time.
No. Hey, that's some. We'll talk about that later. I have something to talk about with that. Like a recent update. Interesting conversation I had about reviews and wedding wire and the and cool stuff like that.
Hey, are you using a mic or what are you doing over there?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Why?
I was just asking.
Does it sound
Yeah,
like
it sounds
can
funny.
you tell?
You remember what Jenny sounded like in the beginning of her
Is that
episode? It
what it
kind of
sounds
sounds
like?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, are you on Bluetooth audio
You know,
or something?
I was
like
on
that?
here at 9:05.
You're
somebody get on here
fine.
and
You're
talk to me,
fine.
And you fuckhead wouldn't get on and test my mic with me. And then
You're
Ted told me it
fine.
sounds fine.
I'm just asking before we go further. This way you don't,
Here, you can have mine.
you don't hear it.
Nobody wants that thing.
Actually, Mike, I don't know. I tried this before you guys got on, and I plugged it in, and you could hear the audio coming out of it. Like I put my ear to it, and you could hear Tommy talking. It was so weird.
You're not supposed to hear audio out of a microphone.
Yeah,
No,
I
it
know.
doesn't have a speaker in it. Is this better?
That sounds
It's
better.
good.
That sounds better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Much
What is
better.
what is that? What are you working with now?
It's your fancy fuck mic.
Yeah, it's cool. You should use it.
It's not. It's my laptop
You
mic.
sound sad. You're like,
It's my It's because it's my laptop mic.
That sounds better than whatever was.
Yeah.
before.
Oh wait,
Yeah,
it sounds
these
better?
are my knockoff Apple headphones. They're like weird, crappy ones. So I couldn't find my regular ones.
That's cool.
Do
Before it
they
was
say
super
Sony
muffled.
on the side?
No, they don't. Ted, you used to own a Sony, dude. So I don't want to hear it.
I have a Sony TV
Yeah, Sony's the best. Don't get mad about it.
at TVs and Walkmans. They were awesome at Walkmans.
It's all right, dude. Hey, so there's a couple things I wanted to ask you about. And one of them was, I feel like your back end of your business is really like efficient. And that's stuff we've talked about a bunch. I remember like years ago, I talked to you about like outsourcing editing and stuff like that. And I still haven't taken the leap on that.
Oh, do it.
I want to do it so bad, and I've like adjusted my pricing to fit it in, and everything's there. It's like ready to go. I just like haven't taken the leap because I'm nervous.
Is that
Well, I
one of
will
your
tell you-
secrets?
You
What's
guys
that?
were talking about what, Image Salon or something in a recent episode?
We talked about a
or-
couple.
We talked about a couple.
Yeah.
Evolve.
Image Salon is one I got
Evolve,
recommended. Evolve is one that we've heard about.
So I found my editor. So I've tried a couple of them. I tried Shoot.edit, which I do not like. I won't say anything more than that. But
Fair enough.
Photographer's Edit, I actually liked, and I like them as a brand. I would support them. Basically, I ended up wanting just to like have one person. I wanted it to be consistent, and I wanted to be able to like text or email my editor if I had a question. And so I found mine on, God, what website was it? I think it's like not Edit Source. Oh my God, I can't even think about. I'll have to find out the website, but basically it's like a search engine basically for private editors.
Really?
Yeah, and like my girl's located in Ohio. You can like see you can see some sample work from them, and then you like contact them through the website. And her pricing was similar to like Photographer's Edit. I want to say Shoot.edit was really cheap, but you kind of get what you pay for.
The girl you're using now, you said, where'd you find her at?
I think it's called. Am I making it up when I say Edit Source?
No, I'll check it out.
Is that another website? I think it's like Edit. God, I don't even know where I'm getting that name.
Oh, hey, I found it. I think you're right.
Yeah, outsourced to a private editor.
You're right.
Yeah, okay. So it is Edit Source.
Edit / source. Edit
source.com. So this was years ago. I've been working with her for, I would say, at least 3 years now. And she just does this solely. Like, she used to be a photographer, and she solely edits now for a number of people, but she's awesome. She's changed her systems around a little bit, but I mean, it's still a good amount. I'm still paying hundreds per wedding. However, I do over deliver, and I have her edit everything other than maybe 50 or so sample shots from like throughout the whole wedding.
Nice.
Like a lot of people don't give their editor like reception shots, but for me, I just want everything.
Right. Yeah. Like, what's the point then? Like, that's the shit I don't want to call. I don't want to do any of that part. Honestly,
I do call.
Okay. So that was the part
she does culling though.
Okay.
She just started offering that, but it's significantly more of an investment. And I'm a control freak with my business, which is why I haven't gone the associate route, even though I want to. So
there's a lot there.
Yeah, I still do the culling. It still takes me sometimes weeks to cull a wedding because I just hate doing it. I just sit on the files forever. But once I do it and get it out to her, like I have my edits back pretty quickly. I won't say how quickly in case any client happens to listen to this.
Yeah, no,
because
quick enough.
I definitely don't deliver when I should. But that's one of my things this year. I'm trying to get better.
That's awesome. So. Nice.
So yeah, definitely outsource whatever you can.
That's definitely on my list to do.
Yeah, no, it's worth it.
I feel like every time I see your social media, it's like a new wedding. It's pretty cool that we're learning your secrets.
Yeah. I shoot about like 30. Well, I would say my cap is about 30 weddings a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm torn on. I just had a baby 4 months ago, so I'm kind of like torn on if I want to do less going forward. So I'm still adjusting pricing and all that to.
I don't think
make it worth it.
You have to feel bad about scaling back if you want. You know what I mean? Like this year, I took significantly less work because I wanted to focus and rebuild a section of my business, and not feel like completely stressed out the whole time I did it.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to do that, I think it's something that, you shouldn't feel bad about, like, oh man, people are like worry about becoming irrelevant or worry about, it like having a long-term effect. I think you can bounce back from that pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny? The quarantine is making me want to work less. This is fun being home and like having time.
I'm having a great time, to be honest. I know it sounds crazy, but.
What are you guys doing with this whole quarantine thing? Do you guys have your jobs from home in any way, or at least Tom?
So yeah, I'm working from home
okay.
It's right now it's scheduled for like 4 weeks, and then it's going, they're just gonna play it by ear. It depends on what the state says though. I can do a lot of my work remotely, so that's super helpful.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that is making me want to work from home more.
No, it's hard. It's so
really
hard.
difficult. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, my job is normally work from home with
Right.
my other full-time job. So there's nothing's changed for me other than I just don't leave my house even less now.
Right. That's the hard part.
Yeah, no, it's such a weird, like, it's kind of cool. And I feel like a lot of people feel like it's like a vacation in some ways. But I feel it's like the social part of it is so weird to get used to.
Right.
And so it's a lot of like, luckily with my company, we do a lot of video chatting and stuff like that anyway. But
yeah, that's good.
But yeah, it's like you can go days without talking to people other than, of course, your family. But.
Right. I will say, like, normally I'm away from the house at least 40 hours a week. And being home with the 3 kids and the 2 dogs, I was like, okay. Yeah, it's I give my wife a lot of props for being home with them all day, every day. And like, my kids are awesome. They have, like, I'm having such a good time with them. But it's a lot to try and work because Gianna helps run up my business. I don't know how she gets anything done because, especially with the amount of them, she's like, all right, I got this one settled. Now what does this one want? Right. And it's kind of chaotic.
Yeah. I don't know how she does it with 3. I have a 4-month-old.
That's a lot.
I'm like,
everything's kind of normal for me. I'm taking time to a little bit of working on the business, but a lot of like doing house projects and landscaping and stuff. My wife has it really tough because usually time for her to get her stuff that she wants done is when the kids are at school. So she does her own thing around the house. She has some personal time. Like, things are like, the schedule really helps. Just the consistency of it with the way things are. The kids are driving us both crazy by being home. We love them. It's been a lot of fun, but homeschooling has been a little tough for especially Caleb. He's not cooperative in any way. Yeah, it's tough, but they're both special needs. So their schooling isn't regular kind of academics. It's different stuff that we really need the teachers for in person. And it's hard just kind of doing curriculum with them. It doesn't really have the same impact, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially, and for you, it's like, for me, the hardest part has been still getting my 40-hour-a-week job done because when I'm at home, I want to work on my business and I want to hang out with my family. So like I'm in them. And so I have to like turn it on and be on conference calls and all that stuff all day. And then now when it's time, it's like, I don't have that hour drive to knock me out of that job and come back into this one.
Yep.
I mean, it's weird. It's just, it was an adjustment. So the first week I would say I got nothing done for my business, but now I'm back in and like, I got into a groove. It was an adjustment for sure, but it's been, I'll tell you what, I am enjoying the family time, and the weather's actually been pretty nice to go out on like the back deck and stuff. It's not been too bad.
I think the hardest part about working from home for most people is never having the feeling of a separation of work and home.
Right.
There is no like off time. Like, even when you schedule it, it's in the back of your mind, like, oh, I could just go over to the desk and work on some stuff real quick. And that's definitely an adjustment. But yeah.
I'm kind of having a little bit of fun with it. I mean, obviously the loss of money from weddings getting rescheduled or canceled is a damper, but at some point you just have to look at yourself and say, well, I have no control over that part. I'm going to make the best of this part. And that's what I've been doing. Like, just being optimistic and positive about it, and kind of having fun with the kids and my wife and getting stuff done. Next week, I'm going to cut down a bunch of trees in my front yard and backyard. So
we did that. We did that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into growing my own food, so we're planting a bunch of stuff to eat.
Nerd.
It's been fun. I don't care. It's fun.
Gardening is pretty awesome.
Keto friendly garden.
No, our house runs on 100% sugar. I'm the only one that eats keto. Everyone else, it's just like Willy Wonka's diet. It's awesome.
Oh, one other thing I've been doing, just because you asked the question, I've been jumping into a lot of different like webinars for people that are giving free trainings and just networking sessions with people. That's been a lot of fun. I've been like grabbing little tidbits of learning throughout the whole process, plus doing like masterclass training, reading more books, listening to audiobooks. That's been a lot of fun, because the temptation is just to watch Netflix when you have downtime, but I'm trying to like not think of it like that and try to get some learning in it.
Right. Equally as valuable, I watched all 8 Harry Potter movies with my son.
That's pretty valuable.
It was pretty awesome. It was a great experience.
All right.
He's 5 and he followed all that shit. I was like super impressed. I was like, dude, this kid's got it.
So basically, I'm really excited to have you on today, Nicole, because when I started doing photography, some of the big things in the beginning were, okay, I have 6 weddings this year. I'm just going to use a notepad on my phone, use the calendar, and make some contracts for each customer, and basically do everything by hand, because why spend hundreds of dollars on this system to manage everything for me when, it's just 6 customers. But then over the years, things got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I'm dealing with like 25 customers of my own, plus a bunch of other weddings for other people that I'm second shooting or lead shooting. And it got kind of chaotic to the point where I was taking a retainer from somebody and telling them tomorrow I'll fill out the contract and send it to you to get signed. And then I'd forget about it because I had a full-time job and all the other things I had to do with that, everything else with the business. I would literally forget about contracts you made until like a couple weeks before a wedding. I'm like, oh my gosh, your wedding is coming up in 2 weeks and I have no contract. So like big problems like that. Then when, I talked to Tommy, because he introduced me to a CRM that you use, and then you helped me install it, and I saw what you do with your business. I'm not even using it to its fullest capacity in what you are, but I instantly realized the importance and necessity of having this kind of system to make my business more efficient, because who wants to work 90 hours a week to deliver a product that you think is really valuable to people as far as customer service goes, when a software system can automate a ton of stuff for you so you can have your life back. So that's kind of why I'm really excited about having you on. Can you explain a little bit about how you use that for your business?
Yeah. So the company you're referring to is Tave. And I've actually been working for Tave in the support realm for, over 4 years, 5 years, I think now. I left my law career and started working full-time for them after using it already for a few years. So I've been using Tave for almost the entirety of my business. Basically, early on, I kind of, similar to what you were doing, Ted, I had, Google Calendar to track my schedule, and I don't even know where I was keeping track of other information. I used DocuSign or something like that for contracts, and everything was being managed in a million different places. So my biggest thing was my workflow and kind of knowing, okay, what do I need to do for each client when? And I wanted to make sure I was giving my clients all the same experience and not missing something on that to-do list for a client that I was doing for everybody else. So I needed something that was digital. I tried making my own little to-do lists for every client. I tried using a dry erase system. None of it worked. I needed something that was digital and that would update automatically. And I didn't even know what it was called. I didn't know it was called a CRM or studio management software or whatever back then. They weren't as popular, I would say. So I just kind of found Tave. I don't even know how, probably a Facebook group, somebody suggested it or something, started using it. And I ended up working for them a few years later. One of the developers actually approached me and was like, hey, I see you're active in our Facebook group and helping other people use it. Do you want to help us with support? And so long story short, I've been working for them for years, but my entire business is based on that type of platform. So it kind of started with the whole workflow thing, just kind of making sure I was doing the same things consistently with every client. Especially with weddings, you're dealing with a huge important day and you don't want to screw it up. You want to make sure you have a good contract obviously in place and get that all squared away and collect payments on time. And so automating a lot of my business was definitely key. I kind of call my Tave account kind of my really inexpensive, employee. It basically takes the all the responsibility that I would have maybe a bookkeeper or an admin do for my company. And a lot of it is automated, like you were saying. So yeah, I think it's a must have. I feel for me, customer service in this industry is more important even than the quality of your images or your video. So I would say 9 times out of 10, my reviews from clients are more about the hand holding and the personal experience I've given them from the time they booked with me up into the wedding, and after the wedding, more than oh, we loved our photos. So I think a lot of that goes to like the systems I have in place to make sure everybody gets like the same like solid treatment. And a lot of that is in email form, I would say. I do check in with my clients a lot, and a lot of that is done obviously right through my Tave account. Most of it automated, so that every couple gets a certain email with a certain questionnaire 4 months before every wedding. They all get like a check-in email at a certain point. They get an email the day after their wedding saying like, hey, your wedding was awesome, and this is what I'm doing now with your images. I'm backing them up, and you're going to get previews, and you're going to get your images in, X amount of weeks. And it's a lot about, a lot of it is setting expectations, I think, in this business, and kind of, it helps me avoid issues that I see come up a lot especially in Facebook groups where people are like running into these big dilemmas with clients. And I'm like, if you would have just set their expectations appropriately along, the whole process, that you wouldn't be in this issue. You wouldn't be having this problem right now. But
right, and I feel like that's a big part of it. And the other part of the CRM is like, if you want a fast way to establish like credibility as a company, right? Like dealing with clients to say like, I'm a credible person, like having your shit together and having like your like all my stuff through Tavi kind of like looks the same. It's like my contract looks professional. When they go in, it's like a very click through. It looks like an established company. When I came into it pretty early on, before I started doing weddings on my own, and it was like right off the bat, it looks professional, it looks tight, and I think that does absolutely give you that credibility right off the bat, which is nice.
Oh yeah, it's that branding. I remember when I first started using it, and obviously I've been working for them full time the whole time too, so I know the system like inside and out. I handle support. We always joke that sometimes they think that I know the software better than the developers, because I know all the little nitty gritty things. But yeah, about branding. So I remember when I first started using it, of course I like tricked out like the branding, and I did a lot of like custom code and all this stuff to like make it even cooler. But I would get clients all the time. I would send them like a quote, or I don't even know what they were called back then, proposals or whatever. And they would get them and they'd walk through it, and it would look like it was part of my website. Like the domain would be part of my website. Like it didn't say like Tave or anything anywhere on it. And so I would always get people that would email me back and be like, wow, your website's really awesome. And, they think that this whole booking part is part of my website.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So they give me all this credit for it when really it's done by, a CRM. But yeah, I think, definitely credibility with clients. There's nothing worse than having to like print, email them a contract, have them print it and sign it and scan. Like these days, most people don't even have printers. And there's still people that are doing it that way, which is just like, it irks me. Like I would seriously not hire somebody.
Just fucking fax it to them.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's bad. So I think credibility with clients, making you look, professional, is definitely like the minimal, reason why you should have a CRM, but really just being organized, and I don't know, just taking a lot of that like thought out of the back end of the business. I feel like a lot of people go into being a photographer or videographer for the creative part of it, and they kind of forget like, oh crap, like I just formed a business and I need to now run this business, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. You can get into a lot of trouble if you don't do things correctly, and especially when you're dealing with weddings. And I think people sometimes forget about that, and then they just make bad decisions, and or they're not organized and they don't have things in place to protect them. And, so I think doing things professionally and, I don't know, just being on top of your stuff is I think the most important. I kind of like being a business owner more than I like being a photographer.
Same.
That CRM too lets you put the processes you want to put in place, right? Like there's something I want to do. I go, okay, well, how do I do this? All right, I want to start sending out this specific type of follow-up email. Okay, well, now I can go into my CRM and go, all right, this is how I want it laid out. It gives you a nice like overview of the process, right? If you want to see a map from start to finish, like you talked about the dry erase board method, like stuff like that. Like I am used to doing that way because I'm an instructor. I usually have a giant whiteboard where I'm writing things up for people and I'm explaining things that way. So it's like second nature. It makes me want to go do that. But when I see it in Tave or when I see it in a CRM, it's like everything's laid out nice. You can see your plan. You can kind of do like a feedback loop to see like what's working. And you can't really get that. You can get it other ways for certain parts of your business, but for your business as a whole, it's kind of like to see that you should always, I forget what they called it. They called it, there's a book called Scrum Work twice as much in half the time or something like that. And it's all about this feedback loop. It's like everything you do, you're looking back at it to see how it was effective. So every step in a plan, you're going back and evaluating that step, see if what you thought the outcome was going to be was the outcome, right? That kind of thing. You can do those kind of things, take like real business practices and put them in place because you can see everything laid out in a map like that, which is really nice.
Well, yeah, and I think you guys were even talking in the episode with Courtney recently about like, she was saying she gets a lot of her leads from Instagram. And it was funny because when you guys were asking her, like, where do you get the most of your leads from? I was like, oh, I could find that out in 2 seconds in Tave because there's a report that tells me exactly where my lead sources come from. And, I could look based on, when they inquired with me or what year their wedding was. I could look up under a bunch of different filters, but knowing that kind of information about your business is so important. And there's some people that just have no clue. They just assume like, okay, yeah, I get most of my leads from this place or whatever. But I used to advertise. I don't really spend much on marketing ever, but I used to years ago advertise with a small, like New Jersey based website for wedding vendors. And I would pay them, a few $100 a year. And it was like just for extra like promotion. And then one year they asked me again to renew. And I looked back in my reports and I saw that I got like 2 leads from them and neither of them booked for that previous year. And I was like, honestly, it's not a good like investment for me. I'm not getting, the leads that I need from the marketing or whatever. And so I canceled and I felt bad, but I need to do what's right for my business. But yeah, like knowing that kind of information, like where people are coming from. And even if they tell me Instagram, because sometimes that's where they like last looked at my work before they reached out. So that's what they'll choose. Sometimes I'll still like, if I meet with them in person or have a consult with them, I'll be like, okay, I know you said Instagram, but like, where did you like first hear about me? Because usually it's like, oh, my best friend, was a bridesmaid in a wedding of yours or whatever. And then I like looked at your work on Instagram. So I and I'll change it if I find out more information from them.
That's cool.
Because that information's, important to know about your business. Same thing for like when people don't book with you.
I think that's so important what you were saying about the leads and how most people don't know where their stuff comes from. But I think it's even more than that. Like I track all the way down to split testing emails that I send to people and follow the numbers on what works the most efficiently to get like whatever results I'm trying to get. But, you talk to so many people that they don't have a system in place to track what's going on in their business. And then they make like these radical changes and they don't even know if they're changing the thing that's wrong because they don't have systems in place.
That's the problem with tinkering too, right? Too many changes too fast. Like if you're constantly changing, how do you ever know what change you made, what made what impact?
Yeah, like a good example is when you hear people say, oh, right now I'm doing phone calls for consults, but I'm going to go to in-person because it's not working. Well, you don't know if it's your face that's the thing that's not working, or is it maybe what you're saying? Like you have no way of quantifying that. And I feel like that happens a lot in creatives. They don't like that mathematical side of it, if that makes sense.
Nicole,
No, definitely. Yeah.
So I'm like going to try really hard to not ask you like specific questions that have to do with setting up Tave today because I could go have 1,000.
Hey, I could talk about it for years.
But for the one question, where do you initially get the information from them to track the lead source? Where do you you put that in your initial like inquiry form? Like where do you put that?
Yeah, so I use one key thing with any kind of CRM, whether it's Tave or something else. I mean, I think they all have this functionality, but you can integrate your contact form with the software. So my contact form I ask for, say for my wedding one, I ask for both of their names. I ask for like the main person who's filling it out, their email address and phone number. I ask, of course, their wedding date. I ask the ceremony and reception locations, and I ask where they found me. And that question has a set like list of sources that I have set in my account. And so whatever they choose, that lead automatically gets created in Tave for me and gets put right into my lead flow. And that's where I collect that information. And so I actually do have one extra field. So I do have where I ask them where they came from. I do have an extra question underneath it that's optional that says like, if you heard of me from a specific person, whether it was a client of mine or a vendor, like a venue or another photographer or a videographer or whatever, tell me who they are so I can thank them. And so that I collect that specific name if it is something like that. Because I do have something automated in my account that after somebody books with me for a wedding, if there's a referral on it, like an actual contact on there that has an email address associated with them, it sends them like a thank you email. And it's like a simple little, doesn't give them anything, any kind of, free anything. It's just a thank you. But, I like to thank people who are giving me business, whether it's a past client or another vendor or whatever. So things like that. Yeah. Collecting that information I do right from the beginning on the contact form. And then it goes right into my account. I email them, right away. I mean, I pretty much live in front of my computer or my phone. So, my response time is usually within, I would say definitely within an hour, usually less than that. If it's like during the day. And that's another thing that is huge. I mean, some brides are like emailing random people. I feel like I'm at the point now in my business where, with my history and price point and things like that, I think I'm definitely getting a lot more inquiries that are serious and like they know that they want me, or I don't know, they're more serious inquiries. They're not just like throwing out, inquiries with any photographer that comes up in Google. So, they're always like responding to me and being like, thank you so much for, responding so quickly or whatever. But I don't think it's so much like I need to get back to them really quickly in order to get that booking, because they're going to book whoever responds first. It's more just, I want them to, I don't know that I'm going to be on top of things the whole time. And email is definitely my number one form of communication. I will text my clients. I'm not one of those people that's like, my office hours are 9 to 5. And if they text me after that, I'm going to ignore it until 9 o'clock in the morning. Like I literally had a bride that, she was getting married at Park Chateau right when they opened. I really wanted a wedding there. And she was like going around changing her date around, for whatever reason, I can't remember. And she really wanted me to be her photographer. We had met, I think in person. I can't remember how we did no, it was over the phone because she was living in Florida at the time. And she was texting me at like 11 o'clock at night about like which wedding date they were going to choose. And I was like, I am going to respond to this, because if I don't, she might book somebody else who is willing to, say they're available on her date. So I was texting her at like 11 o'clock at night, and I got the wedding. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, very strict with that kind of stuff, but I'm a very, I don't know, I think I'm a good communicator with my clients. And like, especially now with what's going on with the date changes and people having to postpone their weddings and stuff, like, I feel like most of my time working on my business recently has just been texting with brides about, what dates I'm available for their new wedding date. And, it's stressful for them, and I don't want to add to that stress. So
it's funny you say that. I think it was Sue Bryce. I was watching a video like years ago, probably like 5 years ago now. And she was talking about how people were saying like, oh, this is the digital generation. She's like, no, they're the now generation, right? They want it now. So, it's cool to have that, like, and people, you can bank on your couples. Like, I only want to work with people who are going to be considerate about, and be okay with me keeping office hours. Or you can understand that people want to see things happen more quickly now and expect things to happen more quickly and have that situation. So the people who say they're keeping office hours. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that, in my opinion, it may put you at a disadvantage, and you just have to be okay with that. If that's how you want to run your business, that's fine. But it may put you at a disadvantage because it's so easy to communicate quickly now. If your client's texting you at 11 o'clock at night, that means they want to text you at 11 o'clock at night. You mean that's a preferred method of communication for them? That's a time that they're up and want to talk.
And my opinion on that too is like, if you're up at 11 o'clock at night and someone texts you about their wedding or potential wedding, if I'm on the couch watching TV with my wife, I'm probably on my phone playing a game anyway.
Right.
Like, how much more seconds does it take for me to respond back with an email? Like, yes, I'm available for your day. Here's some pricing. Usually I'm in bed by 9:30 anyway, so I'm just sleeping if they text that late. But, the example stands, like, how hard is it to really just respond really quickly? I'm not going to get on the phone with them for an hour.
Bro, are you wearing like shorts?
Yeah, I saw that too.
I saw a little bit of leg
skin.
there, dude. What the fuck? What's happening?
Actually, I'm wearing like pajama pants, but
No, you're not. I saw your knee.
yeah, because I rolled them up.
Oh, jeez.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that texting thing too. If I'm awake or if I'm available and you want to talk to me, like, I'm going to talk to you. If I'm not available, I'll answer when I am. Like, I don't know why people get offended.
My wife is shaking her head at me. It's hot in here.
Some people,
it's so hot.
Some people will take getting text messages real late as like a personal attack. I don't understand that.
No, that's what do not disturb is for.
A client's reaching out to you and wants to give you their business. You know what I mean? There's like an earthquake going on here. Now, wants to give you their business. Like, that's great. That's awesome. Somebody wants to work with you. Fucking respond.
I statistically set up the most consults waiting in line at Disneyland or Disney World. Like, I will talk to you whenever. I don't care.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm always checking my email, and and I use like the talk to text.
Well, you old.
Oh no, I love it.
I love
Jesus Christ.
Ted does that to us all,
Here,
all the time.
I'm going to tell you something on my screen.
Many typos.
I know it may be different on my screen, but on my screen, it's me and Mike, and then you two. And I can tell you that one side of the screen uses talk to text and the other side of the screen does not. And I'm not saying there's an age difference. I'm just saying.
No, I love it.
Shots fired at you, Nicole.
No, it's at you.
No, it's at you.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
No, my husband and some of my friends, like, especially on a wedding day, I do it like with my Apple Watch.
Oh,
and
Jesus Christ.
And people
in public is worse.
Well, I mean, not like super loud with a million people around, but
it's not.
But I'm the type too. Yeah, with this stupid dinging.
Ted
But you'll laugh too because I'm a stickler for like punctuation and grammar. So I like make sure there's periods and exclamation points, and the only way to do that is saying it. So it does sound ridiculous, but my texts are like nicely formed paragraphs that are, accurate and spelled correctly. I'm one of those people that texts like in big paragraphs, not like the million little one-liners.
Same.
And one of my second shooters, Tanya, she is that type of texter, and to the point where it's so bad that like when we're watching TV or something at night and she's texting me, my husband will be like, "Oh, that must be Tanya texting," because he knows how she texts, and so I will literally put her on do not disturb because it like just drives me crazy.
Ding, 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 ding.
Dude, so
she thinks I'm weird because I do it in like big paragraphs.
These two guys here do that. I mean, all day long. I'll look at my phone, and then about 3 minutes go by, and I come back, and there's 30 messages between the two of them.
But they're paragraphs.
What are you
Time
talking?
out.
Yeah, they are.
There's 30 paragraphs.
Long paragraphs. Tommy makes 2 sentences. Mike has 3 more long paragraphs.
That's not always accurate.
An article, like an expose. Mike has a lot of stuff in there.
The worst is if you don't use full words. That's what gets me. If you use
Here's the thing that bothers me. Is if you use talk to text in public, if you do, you're a fucking monster. And I have nothing else to say to you. This is over. Goodbye.
I do it when I'm driving.
The worst
is when
driving.
Driving is really.
But he does it when we're driving together. Just text, man. Just text.
Oh, dude, I stopped sleeping when we're driving together. You should be happy.
I wanted to punch you in the fucking face. I'm not gonna lie.
I could not stay awake. There was no.
We're driving home from weddings after shooting together, and this dude, it's like a 2.5 hour drive. 5 minutes in, he's out. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
I need my second shooter to be awake.
Right.
For driving home.
I couldn't help
after
it.
a 12-hour day or 14-hour day. Oh my god, no.
That's just rude.
I've been teaching Gavin to say rude really loud to Amy. Like, rude.
That's good. Respect your mother, son.
So 2 things. One, I've been working on my resting face as we do these podcasts because I noticed that like I'm trying to be intently focused on whoever's talking, but I look like a grumpy old man, so I'm trying to like have a half smile when I'm just listening. Like,
so what's your resting face now?
Yeah, because there was a good 10 minutes in this episode where you looked like you were sleeping.
Right,
No,
I saw that.
You were like,
it already happened.
Eyes closed, 10 minutes. I was counting.
Like this is my half smile. I'm just
You look constipated.
versus the other one, which I was doing, was like this. I just want to have some sort of pleasant resting face. Second thing, we didn't talk about this, but you were a lawyer? I didn't even know that about you.
Well, not fully. I never passed the bar. So
that was it. When people start doing this,
you worked in law?
Deal, right?
You worked in law.
I did work in law.
Yeah,
I did work in law.
awesome.
So I went to before law school, after college, I worked as a paralegal, and then I was like, why am I doing all this work for half the amount of money? So I might as well go to law school. So I went to law school in New York City, and then worked at a law firm in Point Pleasant for 3 years. But I was doing a lot of like the legal work, like the attorney work, but I wasn't officially barred.
You know what's interesting is I feel like I've met a lot of photographers that come from like law backgrounds or medicine, but never accounting. I don't know. It's just weird. Think about it. Do you know any accountant lawyers?
Jess Paltucci. Yeah.
You're full of shit.
No, she is.
That's not even a real person, bro. That's not even a real
person.
person.
but lawyers. I feel like I've met a lot of lawyers. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've also met a lot of doctors.
Well, I feel like
I've
lawyers,
physical therapists that are now.
I wonder if it's because it's a different side of your brain. It's like you almost need to express that other side.
It is interesting to see like what people's backgrounds are before going into photography, which is kind of cool. Do you think that having that law background where you had to like there's like processes and procedures in place for those kind of things, right? You think that made it easy or made it so you go like you were looking for something like Tave or like a CRM for your business?
Yeah, I'm definitely like a type A person, and I am super organized. I just have like systems for everything, and kind of I just need everything to be, I don't know, done a certain way. I'm definitely a perfectionist, so I think that, I don't know, both of those things kind of come from the same place. I don't know.
Do you apply that to shooting?
So, yeah.
One of the things I've been working on this year is developing a system for like, hey, if I at least hit all of this, I know everything's going to be perfect. And beyond that, I can get creative.
Oh, if you saw if you saw my wedding day timelines, the amount of notes and things that I take, the amount of detail, information that like most people don't track for their weddings, I have everything, like to the point where, I have 2 main second shooters. You guys know Mel and I have Tanya. And so they know my, like, they know. And
also,
how crazy
yay, Tanya. We can't leave one out.
I don't know Tanya. That's why I said yay, Mel, because I know Mel.
Yeah, I knew you guys knew Mel. So they know how crazy I am with my like detailed, things, and they have calendar feeds that are produced by Tave, like their own calendar feeds. So they have like every event they're on with me with the notes for each time of day. So they know exactly like what details I want them to capture getting ready and all that. And to the point where if they ask me a question that's in those notes, will be like, I'm not answering this. Like, look at the notes. Like it's literally like a step by step. At this time, get the groomsmen dressed. At this time, do this. Because it's just the way my brain operates, and it's not like me. It's partially me being a control freak, but it's not like in a controlling way. It's like this is just the way I operate. And yeah, so like my timelines are ridiculous, and I do use them as like a checklist on the day of a wedding. And especially because my biggest thing is every time I meet a couple for their first consult, I always I feel like almost every other consult, they mention something that went wrong at like a brother's wedding or a friend's wedding. That's usually the photographer's fault somehow. Even if it's not really the photographer's fault, in most weddings, I feel like the photographer, or video too, like you're with the couple more than anybody else. You're with them more than their spouse is with them on their wedding day. And so in most cases, I think I've only had 3 planners on weddings out of like 200 weddings. I've had 3 that had planners, and they were all actually, no, I had my first one in New Jersey this year that had a planner. They're usually out of state weddings when they have their own like private planner. And so I end up becoming their planner. And so when I meet with them at their consult, like I always like hearing these stories. Well, I don't like hearing them. It makes me sad, but I also like ensure them, okay, on your wedding day or leading up to your wedding day, I'm going to know every little thing that's important to you to capture. Those little like details, like what your wedding favors are, like the littlest things that you put effort into your wedding, planning your wedding. Like I'm going to make sure I have them in my notes and make sure we get everything documented. And because I hear stories all the time, like, there's no photos of me, with my only grandmother on my wedding day, like not even a formal family photo. Like, I'm like, how do they not get that? Like, there's a lot of photographers that believe it's up to the client to put together their family photo list. And I'm like, no. I help them with that. And I put it like in a list for them to approve beforehand. And I don't want the bride or groom to have any responsibility on their wedding day other than just going with the flow and enjoying their day. Like if they have to stress about, oh my God, I never got this photo, like then I'm doing my job wrong. So I let them stress about it leading up to it, and at their final meeting, we go over all that kind of stuff. And then the day of, I have like this mega 4-page timeline with tons of notes, to make sure that every little thing that was important to them gets captured. And a lot of that is done like with questionnaires and stuff like that. But I always make sure I have a final meeting with them too. That's another thing I'm big on, because I've worked with people as like a second shooter where I'm like, so you don't know if they're writing their own vows, or you don't know, like, you kind of learn things from every wedding, I feel like. And I'm sure you guys have the same experience.
It's funny. We have this thing in the nuclear industry that we call, like, we say trust but verify. And I do the same thing with like family, like the family shoot and stuff like that. I'll like send it back a couple of times and be like, hey, so like you said you want these people, but like I want to make sure no cousins, no nothing, like no, and all these extra people, grandparents, like, is this list right? Is this here? Do you want this? Do you want individuals with each one of these people? I want to make sure that my list is comprehensive, and I'm going to bang out every single one of these things so I get everything, but I'm helping you get there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's your chance too. Like, people don't think, like, I don't know, family photos in general on a wedding day is usually not the most exciting part of the day. And I say that to every couple. So I always try to make it as painless as possible. But as a photographer, that's like your shining moment in front of their family. Like the people who are most likely, or not most likely, but often paying for you. And like, that's when they're going to tell their work friends, which I've had people book with me after their mom heard of me from their friend at work whose daughter used me, things like that. And like having a good experience just with something as simple as family like formals on a wedding day, like is so important. And so I try to make it quick and, just like super easy in and out, like not a lot of shuffling of people. And like I've been to weddings where people are like, okay, bride and groom, who do you want next? And it's like, to have them making decisions like that in the middle of their wedding day, like they're gonna forget things, and then later on they're gonna be like bummed that they never got a photo with so and so, and then it looks like it's your fault.
I've been there.
It is your fault.
I've been there recently and sometimes it's hard to, even after like holding their hand trying to get them there, like you just aren't getting the information you need. So you go like, all right, well, what do you want next? And that's always a nightmare. I never like that. It doesn't make you look good. But I have seen, I feel like you see a lot of, hey, making sure that we have enough time for portrait sessions, making sure we have enough time to do cool stuff with the bride and groom, doing the first look. We prioritize a lot of the bride and groom. That's where it seems like a lot has gone. And it's easy if you're coming in new too, to see that and having worked with other people and say like, okay, that's the stuff I have to focus on. And you kind of lose the rest of the family, the rest of the party, non-dancing guests, stuff like that. And that's something our friend Leanna had talked to us about. And I was second shooting for her the one day. And she goes, so what I do now is in the interim, like as everybody's coming into the reception right before intros, I'll go and just take 1 or 2 people at a time. Just take candids of everybody at every table. She goes, it gives me like usually about 100 extra shots, and it takes me about 10 minutes, and I have ensured I've gotten every single person at that wedding. And I was like, that's brilliant. I was like, it's just you have everybody. They can't say anybody was missed. You make sure that everybody's captured, and everything's there. And that's your job, is that, they want to say like, oh man, I don't have a single picture of so-and-so. Like, how's that possible? It's like, and then we go like, well, they weren't up dancing. They weren't in any major events.
But that only applies if that's your style, right? Because we also know
Right.
a lot of people that only deliver 450 photos out of a whole wedding.
Right.
So they're not going to take the time to go shoot everybody.
Well, it's like that couple, and I'm not trying to speak for their style, but from what I can see, Fire and Ice, they're like based out of the UK. They do these like insane wedding films, but I'm like, I've watched them. Like, there's no way that I can see to really shoot this unless they have like a 4 or 5 person team, which is totally possible. To shoot something like that and still have like the full length ceremony and wedding film and like get some of these creative shots and still give them full coverage, right? So it's a different product.
Yeah.
Different product. You know? Totally possible.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and that's part of the reason I'm so like, I take note of every little thing that the couple wants, because my biggest fear is afterwards them being like, why don't I have a photo of this? And
yeah, I just took a workshop where one of the things they drove home, and I never thought of it this way, like with the details, what you're saying was their big thing, like, should I take a shot of it? Did they pay for it? All right, we're going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And it was really cool, because I always skip a lot of details, and now it's like, okay, you know what? No, I'm going to capture them just in case.
Well, to explain why you skip the details though. Like what the original thought process was, because it wasn't just to skip them, right? It was does it help tell the story, right? So like there was a lot of stuff in details where it's like, yeah, especially in video, like where you can flash to it and things like that.
Well, I mean in photo too.
Yeah, but I'm saying like a lot of times the reason we weren't doing details was because we wanted to really focus on the stuff that's going to tell the story. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, if you don't do that, if that's not your style, I mean, there's a reason.
I think I've completely shifted my mindset from being uber creative to being uber systematized. So it's like, I don't know.
What was that?
Yeah, I mean,
uber what?
Systematized. Look it up.
I bet it's a word. I bet it's a fucking word.
I think it is a word.
It's
definitely a word.
Yeah, and whatever. Read Clockwork. Amazing book on it.
A system word.
Like, I'm a big detail person. Like, I'm one of those people that brings the lay flats, and I spend an hour on like, getting ready detailed stuff. I like shooting inanimate. Is that the right word?
Yeah, you're right. Inanimate
objects.
Oh, you're a freak.
Like I like when the subject can't talk back to you sometimes is nice. But
Jesus Christ, this is getting dark. Lets me take the photo and puts the lotion on its skin.
Good movie. Yeah.
God damn it, systematized is in the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, by the way. I've often worked with photographers that do not take time to do details in the beginning of the day, and it's almost like you don't get a warm-up like in the day. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
I use that as my like kind of, I mean, it's still sometimes stressful. It depends on what the mood's like when you walk in that room. Like if like the bride's stressed out or whatever, then of course it can go a little different, but usually that's my time to like kind of get to know, the bridesmaids or whoever's there. And like learn, I don't know, all the little details that are important to the bride. And I give them advice leading up to it. Of course, one of my emails, it has like, here's a checklist of things that you might want to have with you. And they're trained to the point where like, now I will walk in the room and they'll be in hair and makeup and they don't have to get up. They don't have to like move. They have like a bin sometimes with my name on it, like with all their stuff, like ready to go. And it just makes my life easier, makes their life easier, make sure that all those little things are captured. And that's stuff that, you would put in an album, usually. So I think it's important to get at least, some of that stuff done.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome.
It's funny. It's something I wouldn't have thought about, but like for years I've been saying like, I don't shoot cocktail hour. Like I'm not going to go shoot grip and grins or any of that kind of shit, because I was just like, this is not something I do. And then I thought, like, just now as we were talking, I'm like, man, my cocktail hour at my wedding was insane. And I have photos of it. I have like all this crazy food and cool shit that was there. It's not the people, but it was like the stuff. Yeah. I feel like there's places where it's like when you hear a bride or groom go like, dude, I can't wait for fucking cocktail hour. Like dude, grab a couple shots. You know what I mean? Like make it look good. I just did grip and grins as a second shooter for a photographer the other day. And I was like, this was so freaking easy. it was so easy. And I got like 50 shots of a couple groups, and I just got like more people. It was good. It was more stuff that's just there. It may not be anything crazy, but they may want it in the album. It may be, it may just be a nice memory for them. But like, if I see the bride group talking to somebody, hey, can you guys get together real quick? Boom. Took me like 3 seconds, and it was done.
And you want to hear a cool feature actually with that. So I don't know what gallery systems you guys use. I use Shootproof, who actually now owns Trave. Yeah. So, but they have a really cool feature, and I don't know if any other ones have this. They call it like pre-registration mode, where you can basically you could pre-create their gallery, the couple's gallery, and then put it on an iPad. It's not even like the gallery. You're putting like a form that doesn't require Wi-Fi, which is awesome. So I bring an iPad mini to a wedding. If the couple allows me to do this, I do run it by them first. But it has usually like an engagement photo of theirs in the background, and it says to get, John and Jane's wedding photos whenever they're delivered, put your email in here. And so I put it on the bar, cocktail hour, and during the reception, and the guests will all like put their emails in. But what it's great for is occasionally I get print sales from it, which I'm not making tons of money on that, but it's more for like the random couple that you get a grip and grin of, or, this great moment on the dance floor, and they see you take that photo and they're like, oh my God, how do I get that photo from you? I've had people be like, can you take my email address and send me that photo? And I've literally had to like remember, okay, girl in the blue dress, and like email her photos of herself that like, 'cause she's like, me and my husband never get out. And, we want to make sure we see these photos. And rather than them having to hound the bride and groom later, for whatever. So yeah, there's this feature where people can like just pop their emails in, and I love it for that. Like, so if people are like, how will I get to see that photo? Rather than saying like, oh, you're gonna have to ask the bride and groom in, 2 months or whatever it is, like just go put your email in here, and then they pop it in, and then this way they get the whole gallery, and then they'll be able to grab that photo and download it or buy a print or whatever. So
that's so smart. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I have to ask you questions about this because I've thought about different ways to do this for years. How are you telling the people to go to the bar and sign up on the iPad?
Go to the bar and sign up on the iPad.
There it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you're telling them, you're not just like leaving it there, like hoping.
Well, I mean, I do leave it there all night. And if there are multiple bars at the reception venue, I will move it like halfway through the night to the other bar, just because people kind of go to the same bar all night a lot of times, depending where their seats are. But yeah, like, I mean, usually if I get a great moment, I'm not like going up to every single couple or whoever it is and being like, oh, make sure you go put your email in if you want to get that shot later. It's more if they say something to me, or like sometimes if there's kids, of course the parents want those photos of their kids, or, but occasionally I do often get people be like, oh, how can I get that photo from you? How can I get that shot or whatever? And so if the couple if they let me bring the iPad, if they opted into that, I'm usually just like, oh, go put your email in over there. You'll get the whole gallery. And, assuming everything was in focus, I deliver that image.
Do you have a stand where it's like plugged into a wall with power?
No power.
It's just like, what do you have?
No, it's like I don't have it here. I actually lent it to Mel for something, but it's a little silver iPad stand, and I just put my white little mini iPad in it. I have it set so it doesn't turn off like after being idle.
All right. Cool.
And yeah, and it does. And this app, the Shootproof app doesn't need Wi-Fi to collect the emails. It just collects them somehow, I guess, in the iPad. And then when I get home and connect it to my Wi-Fi, it uploads them all to the gallery as visitors. So basically what I have happen is 1 week after I deliver to the clients, and I remind them this in the email template that I use, like, hey, you signed up for pre-registration, so you can hide any images you don't want your guests to see. And in a week from now, in Shootproof, the client can hide images that they don't want people to see. And so a week from then, whoever put their emails in will get an email from me saying, hey, so-and-so's wedding photos have been delivered. If you want to check them out, go to this link or whatever. so yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
Man, now
That
I
is so
wanna
smart.
switch, but I just paid for like 2 years in my company.
Way
I
to
can
go,
find out if
Ted.
they do that because maybe they do. I don't know, but that's fantastic.
Probably
Both of
not.
those features.
Probably not. But yeah, it's awesome. I love it. But yeah, and all of that, kind of going back to like the organization and the CRM part of things, a lot of that stuff, like me asking them, okay, this is a feature I offer. It's in my questionnaire that I send about 4 months before, and I say to them like, do you want this pre-registration feature, whatever I call it, and whatever they say, like yes, no, or let's chat about it at our final meeting. Those are the 3 options. Whatever they say goes to a certain field on their job. And then whenever I deliver their images, however many weeks later, it sees if they chose that field or, what they chose for that question. And that determines what email template they get when I check off something saying that their images are ready. So it's like all of these like little, I don't know, this data is basically, it triggers all these different like automated things in my business.
That's so awesome.
And a lot of it is email templates. I know, Mike, you were saying like you do like, you have different inquiry messages or whatever, different messages you use to respond to leads, and doing all of that. And that's like the most basic feature in a CRM is having, email templates. I know some people use like Gmail's canned responses or whatever they call them now to do that. But just like, if you're going to say the same thing pretty much more than once to, multiple clients, just create an email template for it and just make yourself look professional and consistent, and make sure there's no typos and you're not like, dictating it or typing on your phone, and, looking unprofessional. So.
Well, not only that, but in a way, like bringing it back to when you said you do a lot of like the hand holding type emails, which is something I really love. A lot of people almost seem like they have a ceiling of how many weddings a year they can do because they feel like they can't do that well with more weddings. This kind of multiplies you and allows you to do it with more weddings. And that's great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was going to say that's exactly what I want to talk about, because I feel like a lot of the high-end photographers that say I only do 15 weddings a year because I deliver such a hand-holding client experience to my customers, that's what's important to me. I feel like with the CRM that's as powerful as Tave and a lot of others, like you can kind of create the same exact thing as if you are individually contacting these people all the time. And I'm kind of curious about that. Like, can you kind of go through a list of different features that you have that you think set you apart from other people? Like maybe a couple of different emails that you send out throughout the year before the wedding, or some of the things.
Ted's like, no, seriously, email me your email right
Copy
now.
and paste all of your email templates.
I'm taking a ton of notes right now.
He's like, can we screen share right now? Show me.
It's funny. I've literally done, so part of my main job at Tave is doing support. So whether it's like answering random troubleshooting questions, or I do like Zoom sessions, kind of walking them through something, whatever. But I sometimes will show my account to people and I'll like explain different things I do and whatever.
I've seen that shit. It's terrifying. It's insane.
And they'll be like, they're like, can I buy your email templates off of you? Or like, can I like, and it's funny. And one day I counted in our Facebook group, I think it was probably like Susan Stripling or somebody who loves automations and data had said like, just for fun, they posted like, everybody count how many automations you use in your Tave account. And I counted because I was just curious. And
I saw this post.
I think it was like, I think I had like 162 automations in my account.
Yep.
And some of them are like super like little things that like sending out a random email, like so many days before a wedding, but some of them are like really complicated. And, but even like something like now that I have a child, I have an automation that will remind me, like so many days before a meeting or a session or a wedding to make sure I have childcare lined up.
I thought you were going to say you had an automation like remind you to feed the baby.
Oh no, I'm not that automated.
That's a joke. All right.
No,
I do use an app to track all of those things, but
you helped me set my account up, and it was looking at it originally was like it was completely overwhelming. But
it's crazy.
And it almost made it worse to see your account because I was like, what is
No,
all
it's
that?
scary.
It's
no, and
intense.
that's part of the
It's intense.
problem. I think we definitely get a lot of users that are intimidated by Tave because they're like, they see the potential and they want to get there, but they just envision, oh my God, all the steps, to get there. And they get a little turned off. But the things you can do are just, oh my God, it's amazing. But I would say for the most part, going back to Ted's question, like with the whole hand holding thing and having those like touch points and those connections with your clients, most of it's just done by emails, which are sometimes super simple. Like, hey, here's my recommended list of my favorite vendors. So many, I think I send that like, I don't know, a week after they book with me. Automatically, if somebody books a wedding, like 1 week later, or maybe it's 2 days later, honestly, I don't even remember because it's just automated, but they get that email from me. And I think 2 days after booking, they get an email from me asking to be Facebook friends. And, I make sure they follow me on Instagram and like those like little communications that sometimes aren't really that exciting. But then getting closer to the wedding, one thing I started doing was reaching out to brides to ask them like around the time that they'd be having their bridal shower. I email them saying like, hey, have you ever thought of having your bridal shower photographed? It's a good way for me to get to know your wedding party and your parents or, whoever's important to you. And I've shot a few of my brides' bridal showers. I give them like a little discount if they book me for, after getting the email, that kind of thing. But just like little things like that I'm like, oh, this is so easy for me just to set up an automation to make this connection with my clients. And I've had a few clients that actually at their final meeting have said to me, like, we don't know if our florist is even showing up. Like, we haven't heard from them. We're literally trying to add something to our booking with them and they're not responding. We're trying to give them money or we're trying to make our final payment and they're not responding. And they're nervous, genuinely that they're not going to show up or they're not going to do their job. And they were like, you have been the most consistent person in this entire process, making sure we know that you care about us and you're going to be there and always staying in touch with us. So that is definitely something that obviously my CRM helps me with. I have to set those things up and make sure I want to do those communications, but it definitely helps automate it. And like I said in the beginning, is make sure that all my clients are getting the same experience.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm trying to think of other things.
Ted,
I mean,
Ted, are you still taking notes?
Yeah, I'm taking a ton of notes. And actually, I was going to say,
you know, we're recording this, right?
Oh yeah, I'm going to watch it again. But Nicole, I feel like I'm in that boat, and I feel like I'm guilty of signing up a customer a year and a half before their wedding, being all excited with them. Thank you so much. Everything's going to be great. And then that's it. And then 2 weeks before the wedding, emailing them like, hey, let's talk about your wedding. Let's make a timeline. And I just feel like there's such a better way. And you've kind of given an example of how you can be in constant contact with them in ways where you're not necessarily tied up in doing the work yourself, but you're letting them know you're there for them. I think Mike does a good job with that, where he just sends out a couple emails throughout the year saying, hey, if you need help, I'm here. If you don't need anything, that's great. But I just want to let you know I'm thinking about your wedding and stuff like that. But you're giving some great examples of how I can at least show my customers that I care about them, and in a way where I'm not necessarily typing up an email every single week for somebody.
Yeah,
Mike, why don't you tell us about that, Mike? Where'd he go? He's gone.
He's got that Manahawkin email or internet.
I would say he turned off his last light, that last light in the corner.
It's just black. It's just black screen.
One thing actually that I do, one thing that I do from the very beginning that some people I think don't really agree with or don't put the time into is literally at their consult with me, I will plan out their entire timeline for them. And they'll sometimes take notes and whatever. I don't care. Even if they don't book with me, I mean, my success rate once I meet with them is pretty high. But it's I want to show them, number one, I know how a wedding day is going to go down. They're not usually, familiar with that. Even if I always tell people, even if you're a bridesmaid or a groomsman or whatever in a million weddings, you're not paying attention to how the day goes, really. You're just like, you know, following everybody else and doing what you're told. But when I meet with them, I will literally have a notepad and I'll be like, okay, what time is your ceremony? What time is reception? Like, where are we traveling from? Like, this is what time this should get done, and like all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm basically giving them a rough draft of their wedding day timeline, like a year and a half before. But then I do get those questions occasionally. I would say the number one reason a bride reaches out to me, like I'm always the one initiating conversation, usually through one of my emails. But I would say the one exception is when they need to know what time hair and makeup needs to be done by. That's always the number one question I get. And I don't mind it. And I usually literally have it in a note on their getting ready part of the timeline. Because once I know, okay, are we doing a first look? Are we not doing a first look? Or, you know, we're going to ceremony. Once I know like what time we need to leave by, I put that right in the notes. And they actually see those notes on their questionnaire. So when they're telling me in the questionnaire, like the address for where they're getting ready, or, you know, information about their ceremony, they see in the questionnaire my notes that I have for that part of the day. They can't change those notes, but they can see what I have written there. So they know like, oh, okay, my hair and makeup needs to be done by this time. Or, you know, just anytime I think about a wedding detail for a client, or if I text with them, like leading up to the wedding and they tell me some type of information, I go into Tave and I pop it into my timeline just so that like, I don't know, I have it all written down and I don't forget a little detail that somebody tells me. So yeah.
Wait, you said there's notes that you put in there that they can see?
Yeah, so my wedding days are broken down into usually like 6 events on the schedule. So it's what I call partner A getting ready, partner B getting ready, either a first look or, you know, first look and portraits, depending on their timeline. A first look and portraits, or just portraits if they're not doing a first look. Ceremony, reception. I include cocktail hour with the reception. And family formals. So I have my timelines for a wedding day. I have all of those parts of the day broken down with start times, end times, locations, and my notes. So in each note, in each event in Tave, there's a notes big text box. And so that's where I just jot down like a paragraph, like say for a bride getting ready, it'll say, you know, videographer arriving at this time, or flowers are going to be delivered at this time based on like whatever they told me. You know, I'll put notes in there of any special details that she's told me that are like super important to her, or hair and makeup should be done by this time. You know, so-and-so is going to help her get dressed. Like any little things that they communicate to me that I think is important to know. I'll put like her mom's name in there, just so that I call her by her first name whenever I meet her. Like little things that like I just want to make sure I get, or anything that's important for that part of the day. But those notes, whatever I have before we have that final meeting, which usually isn't a ton, but if I have anything noted about their ceremony or reception or anything like that, I have it built into my questionnaire. So I send them a questionnaire 4 months before the wedding. And that's where I ask them for like all the nitty gritty stuff, who's in their families, who's in their wedding party, you know, what's like the theme of their wedding or the color scheme, or, you know, any must-have shots, who's all the vendors they book, things like that. And in each part of the day, whenever I'm talking about the ceremony, for example, I have like, here are the notes I have on file for your ceremony. And it pulls in, using a token in Tave, it pulls in the notes that I have for their ceremony, if I do have any. Sometimes I don't have anything at that point.
The notes are underneath of the ceremony in the events section, right?
Yeah, like inside the ceremony event on the schedule is a notes box, and there's a token that goes to that box. So if there is any...
Can they see the timeline and the events, I guess, throughout the entire year, or only when you send it?
No, they can't see, like in their client portal, they can't see the schedule. But if you send them, the only way for them to see what you have there is if you pull it into like a questionnaire or an email template using a token. So whenever I put together my like 4-page wedding timeline for them, I send it to them to confirm everything after their final meeting. And then I send it to my second shooter and assistant the week of a wedding. And that, it looks like this really like detailed written out thing that some people probably think I hand do, which I would never do. But literally the entire thing is built with tokens. So it's already pre-built, and it just pulls data in from my schedule, pulls data in from different like fields, you know, on the job worksheet. And it's just all just done for me. But it's awesome.
Understanding the importance of intake forms when it comes to a CRM is like, that was like the number one light switch moment for me, where I was like, oh shit, okay. In order to use these tokens, in order to actually have this thing work, I need to get information, right? So having a good survey that you send out to your clients, like right when you book, is like so important, right? They give you as much information as they're willing to give you, because they're already booking at this point, right? They're already giving you their business. They already want to book. You're putting them through a process of like, okay, now let's get ourselves set up. And I feel like when people see that stuff, they go like, you know, some people might be like, oh god, that's a lot of information, but most people are going to look at it and say, wow, okay, they want a lot of detail. Okay, that they like really want to know what's going on, like they care. You know what I mean? Which I think is kind of cool.
They generally say a contact form should be like, I don't know, 5 questions or less. Like it's kind of just because you don't want for there to be a barrier between, you know, the person wanting to contact you. Yep. But mine is definitely a little longer, but I kind of feel like, all right, if they want to book with me, or if they're really interested in me, they will fill it out, you know? Right. And it's not asking for like their social security number. It's basic information about their wedding.
You don't?
But
I have 2 forms, I think, and this maybe you're saying the same thing, but I have like a contact form in Tommy, so like when they first come in, and then the full blown like pre-session survey if it's for boudoir, or the pre-wedding survey if it's for a wedding.
Yeah, so I have like different intake forms that are part of their quote. So whenever they definitely say they want to book, they fill that out. And for a wedding, it's definitely a little, I mean, it's not like super long, but it's asking them now for like their the second person's contact information. I ask their birth dates. Right. I ask, you know, if they're going to do a first look or not. Like, cause usually at the time of booking, they usually know. But I have an automation that if they choose, we're not sure, I send them an email so many days later that says like, hey, here's a blog post, or here's not a blog post, like just a page on my website.
Just do a first look.
Yeah, that expresses, you know, what one is and like if you should do one or not. So like little things like that, just information that I need to know early on, I get in that intake form. And then a lot of that information goes right into their contract. Like it just transfers over using a token. So it's less work for them. And it gives me everything that I need. And then
to be clear, this is like similar in all CRMs, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to like make it sound bad. Like most of us use Tave, but Mike doesn't. I know a lot of people who use Honeybook and 17 Hats and all different kinds of stuff. They're all great. They're all really good. It's just I happened to get into Tave because other people I knew personally used it, and I thought it was great, and it's been a really awesome, good fit for me. But like any of these, you find what fits and works for your workflow. They're super powerful tools. Super powerful.
Oh yeah. No, it's,
what do you do with their birthdays?
So important.
Send them gifts.
So right now I don't do anything with their birth dates. I don't think I do. No, I don't. Anniversaries I do. But yeah, their birthday, I don't know. I don't really do anything with that information right now.
Oh, I have a question then. So you said you do something with their anniversaries. Do you have an automated scenario, I guess, where you say like every year it sends them like a happy anniversary?
You can do that. I don't. What I do.
Well, so I was gonna say, like, what if it's one of the 100, you know, brides that it wasn't a good experience, and your automated system just like sends them something, you know, every year for
or they get divorced.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah.
So I do have a tag. Thinking. I do have a tag in my address book. I think I've had now 4 couples get divorced.
That's pretty good numbers. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and I have a pretty good handle on most of them, so I'm pretty sure. But I do have a tag in my address book that's divorced, and so this way, like, God forbid one day I set up an automation that goes out to like my wedding clients somehow. I want to make sure there's an exception, like if it's divorced.
That's smart.
that they don't get it.
You should tout that in your business and say like, I have my couples have a really low divorce rate.
Yeah, there you go.
Their pictures are beautiful. It reminds them how much they love each other every day.
Yeah.
That's what you should do. I'm gonna start doing
so
that.
much fun, Nicole. Thank you so much for talking about this.
Dude, the
really,
episode's not
really
over
great.
yet. What are you doing?
So, how did you get started in photography? We'd love to hear.
She already told us.
Very told us, dude.
I don't know.
Have you been
I don't know what the segment you're talking about then.
I was trying to remember. if I did talk about that.
No, so
if we
you've
went
been
into
in
that.
photography a long time. Did you start directly in weddings? It sounds like you did, right? You started directly into weddings and then did portraits, or the other way around?
I did one wedding. So yeah, I did in 2012. One of my friends from high school was getting married. They didn't have a big budget for a photographer, and at the time, when I was in law school, I got my first like DSLR, a Nikon.
What even is that?
D3000, I think it
Oh
was.
yeah.
Yeah, nice
Dope.
crop sensor.
The D stands for dope.
Yeah. And so I mainly use it at the time for just like, I don't know, taking photos in New York City and whatever, just kind of playing around. And
What year was this?
2000.
It was MySpace mirror shots for sure. MySpace mirror shots.
No, I think
late.
MySpace was gone by
Late.
yeah.
Yeah,
think
no.
so, too.
By then, yeah, absolutely. I just want to make that joke. Deal with it.
So yeah, my friends were getting married and they didn't have a big budget for photography, and they asked me if I would do it, and so I was like, yeah, here's your wedding gift. And so I shot that wedding for free. It was on Long Beach Island, and then that was the only wedding I did that year. And then a lot of my friends were, getting pregnant and growing families and
Did you say pregnant?
stuff like that. No.
I thought you went like this.
I
You're
didn't do
like
air quotes.
pregnant. Whatever that means.
Yeah, I was gonna say. What else,
I know
what
nothing
else
about
did I
that.
Right.
So yeah, I was doing they asked me to do maternity photos or newborn photos or family photos, all that kind of stuff. So in 2013, I did a few of those. And my way of showing those photos off, it wasn't planned to be like a business. I created a Facebook page, and this is before Instagram, and
As everyone does now.
yeah. So I and then people started asking me what do you charge? And I was like, I don't know. I don't charge. So I kind of just made it up. And then I'm trying to think what year, I could find out quickly, but I think 2013. Yeah. Fall of 2013, I shot my first wedding, and it was at the Smithville Inn.
Nice. That's a great place to start.
Yeah. I used to shoot there a lot. And then, but yeah, I made sure that bride knew, this is my first big wedding. And it went great.
I'm not good at this. This is not going to go well for either of us.
Well, because her friend, who was one of my best friends, texted me. She's like, hey, so-and-so's getting married. They planned their wedding in 6 months. It was kind of a short engagement. And
Is that when she was getting pregnant? No.
Well, she actually was pregnant.
I knew it.
But they were actually.
Hey, you got to test drive a car before you buy it. That's all I'm saying.
Whoa.
They were
You can cut
originally.
Not gonna cut it.
They were originally getting married later. They were planning. They went to Smithville Inn. They were planning to get married a year later. And then they were like, "Oh, well, we have an opening in November." And actually, this was a good learning experience. So they were like, "Oh, we'll take it." I guess they gave them a discount, whatever. So they ended up getting married earlier than they originally had planned. So they planned the whole wedding really quick. By the time they booked me, they already had their invitations out. And so they had their time set for their ceremony. Well, I'm talking to them about everything, doing this for the first time. Of course, I didn't have a fancy questionnaire or anything. They didn't want to do a first look. And at the time, I think first looks really weren't as popular, whatever. They wanted to be more traditional despite being pregnant. And
It is the same thing.
Not
that part, not that last part, but.
So they didn't want to do a first look. And then I'm as it got closer, I realized when sunset was, because they got married right around daylight savings time, right before the clocks went back or whatever. So it was pitch black at the time of their ceremony, which was outside. So I thought that was the venue's weird decision in letting them do
I've
that.
seen that a lot in the last year or two. People are like, I want a sunset ceremony at 6 o'clock in November. I'm like,
but I don't want to do a first look.
Right. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
headshot
So I had
that
to
one
educate them. I I caught it luckily before the wedding, and I was like, just so you know, you really want all these photos all over Smithville. I'm like, by the time your ceremony's over, it's going to be pitch black outside. And so they actually changed their mind and they went for the first look, and we switched everything up. Thank God. But that's now why, like, literally every time I do a consult with a couple, I have in front of me in my notes what time sunset is, because around here you get a lot of couples that want to get married at the beach, and a lot of times they want to do sunset photos. And if they are planning to enter into their reception as the sun is setting, they're not going to get those sunset photos. So I will sometimes tell them to change their reception time, or change cocktail hour based on sunset alone, because they're not thinking about when the sun is setting when they're planning their wedding 2 years in advance or a year in advance. So like those
Smithville's a tough one too, because
things.
they have those rules with when they have to stop their receptions and stuff like that. Amazing venue, but like the wiggle room and stuff like that, especially certain times of the year, I feel like that would be a tough thing to, like, you can't really move the reception back, right? They can't even go past, I think it's 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, like a lot of the noise ordinances.
That's their shutdown, right? That's one of my favorite venues, hands down. I love that place.
I like how you started with
Club?
Ooh, Brent Beach Yacht Club's one of my favorites. I'm shooting there every weekend in September, twice a weekend, most weekends.
Nice.
Weird. I don't know how that happened.
SEO.
Could be.
Well, I just heard Touch of Elegance is now their their sole caterer now, which I'm excited about.
And they're getting their own venue, right? In Lacey. That's going to be fun.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Sweet Jenny's bought one of the venues in Lacey on the water.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
I always mix the names up, so I don't want to say what name it is, but it's they just took one over.
Hey, where do most of your couples come from? What's your
questions.
main lead generation piece?
Mine?
Yeah.
I can tell you right now. So
she's looking it up.
Yes.
Looking it up. Okay, so for last year, those who inquired last year, let me specifically look at weddings. I want to say lead source. Here we go. So last year weddings, most of them were previous client referrals, which I'm not surprised by. That's 28%. Oh no, sorry. Hold on. That's my conversion. No, I don't know what I'm looking at. So
don't you work for them?
I'm looking at the wrong numbers. There's a lot of numbers.
I'm not calling you.
So yeah, most of them were previous client referrals. And then after that is Instagram, and then Facebook, and then friends that aren't previous clients. So just like random friends of theirs refer.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many categories do you have in that lead source referral thing?
I have 1, 2, 3.
I have none of your fucking business.
Because the way you have it, sounds like you have. Really? That's it?
Yeah. So it's
How
things
many do
like
you have, Ted?
Jesus.
I haven't made that because of that
It's like
reason.
I got one in case you heard of me from
would,
the bear out back.
No, I would have like 50 if I had to do it that way. That's why I'm trying to figure out how to do it, because I would literally have to have a category for every single like venue, vendor.
Well, no, I don't get that specific. So I do have one that is vendor referral, which actually is kind of a higher number. So that includes any other photographer, videographer, hairstylist, makeup artist, or venue. But it's just categorized as vendor referral. But then if they tell me in that other field that I ask, like on my contact form, if they tell me the specific name of the person, I capture that in that field. So I can, I don't have like a specific source in this list for every single person. It's just a category. But I have like the Knot on here, Wedding Wire, which I don't advertise with either of them, but I still get some leads from them. So those are like the more specific mentions, or like Instagram or Facebook. But otherwise it's like we met in person, or I'm a friend or family member, or I'm coming from a previous client referral. So they're more like generalized.
The reason I bring that up is, for me, we experiment with a lot of different types of marketing. I mean, I think I had 11 bridal shows from the beginning of this year till now.
That's one type.
Yeah. And so like, well, to me, I want to know which ones are working, which ones are not. And for me to remember off the top of my head which bridal show they came, like I really want to keep track of that. Plus I'm on 5 vendor lists, venue lists. We work with a ton of other vendors that give me referrals as well, plus friends and family, plus, you know, all these different sources like Instagram.
That's like 6, dude.
Now we're talking about TikTok.
You on
like
TikTok?
YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, like there's so many different places.
You're not on TikTok? Why not?
I actually, and it's funny because this is probably like the 4th time I've seen or heard
You've been watching our episodes?
TikTok mentioned.
Tommy talks about it
on
all
this
the time.
show.
Well, no, I know I've definitely heard it once this week. Yeah, on yours. But even like friends of mine who are obviously stuck at home with their kids, they're like, "Oh, we're doing 1 TikTok video a day."
It's awesome. It's the best.
But it's like,
you
but
can
I
get
don't
stuff like this on there.
understand it.
Oh,
it's the
Jesus,
best.
here we go.
Like I just don't get what it is.
I don't get how to use it for business.
So on the computer, this is the only way I could get a screen share up. I couldn't I can't get the app. Like I can't log in that way. Oh, it's still playing.
Yeah.
No, so in my app I can go like photographers, right, and like pull up and show you guys some stuff that, and maybe I'll like do a screen record and we can throw that in something.
Oh no.
Or I can play it on here at some point. But like I can show you some of the ways photographers use it. I can't
like
search
slideshows, like kind of like
it's stuff like that, or it's videos. It's like behind the scenes videos, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
No, I want to see you do the dance challenges at every single wedding.
No, I don't do that. I have made one TikTok. I didn't.
But unknown. Like
Yeah.
you have to be doing a dance challenge in the back of the ceremony with no one.
Right. No. So like it's like I've had them do TikToks at weddings I've been at. But no, I don't use it for my business. I'm purely a consumer, but I'm thinking about it, and we're like talking about moving towards it. But the stuff I have seen of photographers, it's like portrait photographers who are showing like behind the scenes of like how they set up a shot, and then like boom, they flash to like the actual shot. Does it get you leads? I don't know. We talked about that with Dan, where he's like, I'm not about getting leads, I'm about being in your face. And I was like, well, that makes sense then, right?
He's an aggressive ginger, so.
I
mean, that's how it is with Snapchat, and like, so I don't really use, but I don't really use Snapchat much at all anymore. I more use like Insta stories or whatever, but I
apologize for saying dick pics 2 seconds ago.
Instagram.
you were trying to make a serious point. Here's the thing though.
I use it for personal stuff, so they can get to know me as like on the personal side.
Right. So Snapchat, anytime I'm not saying you did this by any means. There'll be times where I'll bring up TikTok and people will be like, oh yeah, that'll be like another Snapchat. I'm like, no. So here's the reason, like for business, Snapchat doesn't make sense to me. Or at all, I think. You can't search someone. You can't go, like you can't just show up in somebody's feed. You have to make that connection. So as far as like a communication platform, maybe not for getting exposure, not for people finding you. Snapchat doesn't work like that. It's not what it's for. TikTok, I mean, you're seeing like insane amounts of views because people are just like the way it is. It's a swipe type thing. You're seeing hundreds of videos in an hour. Just like
so that's why I need to check it out, because I just don't know how it's even set up. Like I don't understand how the platform is like built. And honestly, I've been wanting to check it out this week specifically, but I have so many other things that I need to do.
We put up a question. I think Mike maybe put it up in one of the photography groups. He's like, hey, we talked about TikTok. Who's been using it? Like who uses it successfully for business? And literally every comment was, here's why I don't use it. Okay.
Well, I thought the worst part about that was all the comments were the people on there aren't the age range I want to reach, but they will be. And to me, it was like,
they will be, and it's also not true either. There's plenty of like 30-something-year-olds, 25 to 30-year-olds. It's a whole age range on there. It's ever expanding too. I mean, fucking J-Lo's on there.
I just have this weird theory that photographers and videographers, they stop marketing because they start getting a ton of referrals and things like that. And then one day it dries up and they don't know how to start it again. And so they just blame people undercutting as the reason they've lost their lead source.
Oh,
that felt personal.
What?
No, I feel the exact same way. No.
Do you?
No.
I don't have anyone in mind when I say that. I'm just saying.
Yes, you do.
No, I hate when I see that. I hate when I see that in Facebook groups, like people blaming the cheap photographers.
There's always cheap photographers. Come on.
That's how we all started.
Yeah.
You think we didn't undercut somebody when we offered
again.
it for free?
Yeah.
You know, our first like 4 weddings we did for free. We definitely undercut people, but those people weren't gonna book them anyway.
Yep.
You know, whatever.
What,
So
Ted?
I want the people
I
that
might
see the
become
value.
cheap again someday. I don't know.
Why not?
We might all become cheap after the
I'm gonna be
quarantine.
the legendary $250 shoot and burn portrait photographer.
Ted, I think we were talking about, or maybe it was I was commenting on a post today, and people were saying they're already seeing a dip in their clients and in inquiries. And like, I don't think the economic hardship has hit. When it's really going to hit is when this is over and we see how many people don't have jobs to go back to.
Right.
That's when we're really going to see the first wave of our price is going to drop, our price is going to stay the same, what's going to happen.
The other thing I was telling my wife was, imagine like something that's really close to where we live are the casinos. You know, I would imagine out of how many are there? 12, 13?
What? Atlantic City's closed. There's like 2 left.
Yeah, there's like
maybe. What I'm thinking is like if something, you know, in my mind, my way of thinking is if a casino ends up closing because of this, because it was really bad for this particular one, the finances just didn't work out, they're done. The clientele that used to go to that one is going to spread out to the other ones, and it's going to help them revitalize and build up again. So it's kind of like a rebalancing or so of economics. And I'm not as smart enough to understand the entire global economy in any way, but in my mind, that's how it kind of makes sense to me.
That's true, but what about the people that are now out of a job that don't have money to spend? And
Well, yeah, obviously it affects everybody.
And if it's a large portion of people out of a job,
right? You saw that. You saw that when we hit the recession years ago, right? People stopped the luxury spending. It definitely took a major dip, right? People weren't out buying super fancy cars. They weren't out gambling. They weren't out doing a lot of entertainment. A lot of those industries felt that hit. So will we see that this time? Who knows?
I just don't think we're seeing it yet, and a lot of people are projecting their fears.
So back to happy.
We're still in a situation where people.
Way to go, Ted! Way to make it sad. Very sad.
Right. You're still in a situation where Mike's gone. Oh, there he is. We're still in a situation where people still have money, you know, right now, maybe, and like it hasn't run out yet.
Yeah,
it's coming.
It's coming.
So. Yeah, the end is nigh.
I'm still shopping on Amazon.
Dude, fuck yeah, Amazon's my shit.
Even though my stuff's not coming till like May now, but
I'm buying stuff on Kickstarter that hasn't been made yet, and all the factories are in China.
Oh god.
I'm thinking this stuff's gonna turn around and they're gonna keep making stuff.
Yeah, probably.
I made my very, very first Grubhub order today.
Oh,
which
I still have never used Grubhub.
So they before all of this, they never delivered to my area because I'm in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere.
They have
now,
to.
all of a sudden, there's like 20 restaurants that deliver to my house.
Well, in our area, we have a famous pizza place that has never delivered. They deliver now because of this.
Yeah,
which is fun.
We're all gonna have weird hair after this quarantine's over.
Not me.
I think I'm gonna make a video of me cutting my own hair.
Don't.
Whole thing. I think. Well, I actually
do
set
a TikTok.
my last haircut.
Yes.
Where the sides are all like I can just kind of shave the sides and leave the top. So I could just do that and take a video of me just cutting my hair.
You could.
I should.
Do it. Just do it.
Just don't do that.
Yo, I think you should bring the mustache back for quarantine.
Dude.
You know what? Go do it right now. Go bring them.
Can't hear you because
Go bring the mustache back right now. You don't have a hair on your ass.
Yo, Nicole, I don't know if you know this. When I did the mustache thing a couple months ago, my wife cried for 3 hours when I like just shaved off everything.
Did you see the mustache thing?
Wouldn't you cry?
Holy shit, that's you.
Now say it again.
My wife just texted me and she's like, whatever.
Oh my god. That's
Holy
great.
shit, that's you. Amy
terrible.
did say the best thing there. Ted's wife said that he looked like the gatekeeper from the Emerald City in Wizard of Oz, and it was fucking spot on.
Well, yeah, and then Alyssa made that little 5-second GIF.
Thank you. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, mohawk and mustache. That's what I want to do.
If you're gonna do it, now's the time. I shaved my face, which was like I was like, oh, I'm not gonna see anybody for like weeks, and then I'm like, oh, we're doing like 15 episodes of the podcast. Fucking great. We did a fucking video chat with 39 people at once the other day from the photography community, and it was like,
oh my god,
this is more people than I normally see in a year, and now they're all seeing me with my face shaved. Terrible.
Who's that baby?
Who's that? Somebody called me a baby too. Like, listen, young man. I'm like, I'm 30 years old. God damn it.
When I shaved the whole thing off
30.
after the mustache, because that only lasted for 3 hours, Then I looked really, really young with nothing on. That was funny.
I've done something like that. I to piss off my mom one time because we got in an argument. I went and got my ear pierced. She's like a big like no tattoos, no piercings, none of that shit. So I went and got my ear pierced, and it looked fucking horrible, by the way. And I came home with like this like floppy ear hat on because it was like December, and I just kept like going like this, like just like egging around so she would see it, and she never saw it until later that night. She almost ripped it out of my fucking ear. So I took it out and it closed up overnight. Well, the next morning I went to my sister's room and took a hoop earring and put it into like re-pierced the hole and came to breakfast saying I was a pirate, and I legitimately looked like a pirate. It was the best thing ever. But that only lasted very shortly.
You did something recently to make your mother upset, I heard.
I did. How'd you hear about this?
It was on the episode.
Oh, did I tell you? Oh, dude. Oh, yeah, I showed the video too. Dude, so can I tell you something?
It was a TikTok thing, right?
It was. Oh, dude, you left that in?
But I want to know what it was.
Oh, play it again.
Maybe.
So you guys didn't leave in the actual.
I messed up the
audio.
audio.
I don't know.
We can't put that in.
No, we can watch it again.
I just see the video.
I don't know if the video's on the episode. I don't think you can show that video.
Are we talking about the same thing? Are we talking about the monkey's butt?
I didn't say it was a monkey's butt. That's not a monkey.
Okay, are we talking about the human's butt? Like, we cannot show that.
We're definitely showing
I can blur it for a second.
Okay.
That was hilarious.
Nicole doesn't want to see that.
Find
You
it.
just asked
She's a
for
mother
it.
now.
She wants it. What does that mean?
Ted, have a shower.
Which means
have a shower and calm down.
I'm gonna need to have a shower after watching this video again.
Let me see if I can find it. It's
we
in here somewhere.
We could make it worse.
It's in our group chat because I deleted it twice now.
I'm trying to find it. No, it's not that bad.
Guys, I feel like this was the most information-packed episode ever.
You say that about everybody.
It's right here. I found it. Hold on.
Because each one is true.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, do it.
I can't believe we're showing this again. This is the best thing I've ever
What if we start every episode with this video now?
Nah.
All right, are you ready? Is everybody ready? So the context is you send this to somebody and you say like, hey, can you believe this coronavirus bullshit? This is what I'm seeing at the store.
Turn it off.
It's off. It's off.
Oh my God.
Oh no, I've seen way worse related to the coronavirus.
Yeah. So I sent that to my mom, which I thought was hysterical, and she hasn't talked to me, and I think we're going on week 3 now, and she doesn't. And part of the reason is because she doesn't know how to unblock me on her phone, because her immediate response was to block my number from calling or texting her.
That's fantastic.
And she hasn't been able to undo it. So, yeah, that's fun. I also refuse to apologize for jokes, so that's part of where I'm at. So I'm like, nope, I'm good with it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Oh man.
So that happened. What were we talking about though? How did we get to that?
We were talking about Boston accents.
No. What were we just talking about, and how did we get there?
Hey, you got the cotch.
Oh no, the
ear piercing.
Yeah. So I looked like a pirate. That was that whole story. That was fun.
I had the little like fake ear piercing where I just kind of clamped on. It looked like one.
Where'd you get it? Fucking Claire's?
I don't know. It's 13.
Claire's in the mall.
Did it turn your ear like blue?
No, actually, I left it in for a couple of days, and that was not a good idea because it actually started to pierce my ear. Like it started to go through my skin. That was bad.
And then how would you get into law school?
They were friendly upon that at the time.
No, they weren't. Oh, it's amazing. So much fun. This fucking industry, I'll tell you what. There you have it, everybody. Fake ear piercings. That's the cheap way to get your ear pierced. Just leave it in for a couple of days.
Hey.
It's your Wedding Crashers tip of the day.
I'm not cutting any of this.
No, you gotta leave it in.
I'm trying to think of other questions to ask Nicole. Like I
you like already got your free workshop. I feel like you have to say.
Dude, you have no idea how many notes I took, and I'm gonna take more like after we watch this again.
Just listen to the episode, dude. Jesus Christ.
My wife said I made her look bad by talking about her crying.
When did you talk about her crying?
About your mustache?
My mustache, yeah.
Oh.
I would cry too.
True. She cried.
She already looks bad for marrying you.
Screaming at me. I mean, there's that.
Tell her she can redeem herself if you shave it this time and she doesn't cry.
Oh, that's a good idea. Well, I'm sad. Remember, like, because of this whole thing, we had to cancel some plans. if that thing ended up working out with me going to traveling for that wedding out of state, I was going to cut it off for that because I was going to be gone for a couple of days. And, when I came back, shave it off and start over again. And she would have not been that upset because
You would have went through TSA and they would have been like, nope.
Hell no. There you go. A TSA joke we can leave in.
Right. I had to cancel a trip to the Dominican Republic. I was supposed to shoot a wedding.
Oh, wow.
The end of April, and they've now changed it to local in June, hopefully. So, but yeah, so we were supposed to go make a big family trip out of it.
So how do you, is that just like a normal inquiry, or do you like specifically market towards destination weddings, or how do you get to
well, no, these are friends of mine. Well, I shot the groom's cousin's wedding, who's a good friend of ours. And so that's how I met the couple. And yeah, they were planning a destination wedding. I've only shot 2 other destination weddings, and they were friends of mine. So I don't like market destination, but I will do it. I'm a good traveler, so.
Yeah,
I love traveling.
Yeah, we got Peyton her passport at like a month old.
That's awesome.
She was gonna come. My parents were coming. I paid for a room for them so they could babysit while we were there because we're also guests. And now the whole thing's canceled, so I'm sad. But now we still paid for everything. So now through the travel agency, we have to still take a trip. So we're gonna go sometime this fall.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of posts of people like their travel insurance not covering some of their stuff. Mm-hmm. It's really bad right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, well, at least we still get a vacation out of it, but
right.
I feel bad for the couple, especially because it's the Dominican and they booked their wedding before all that stuff happened where people were like dying down there at hotels.
Yeah.
And so everybody was trying to convince them to like
not
change locations. And so they were like, no, we're still getting married there. And then of course that blew over and then now this happened. But they actually just recently bought a house that has a huge farm property. So nice. I was like, why don't you guys just do it at your house? Like they have like horses and
hands down best wedding I've ever been to was a backyard farm wedding, and it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it would be awesome. So
it was the Hoffman wedding. It was the Hoffman wedding.
Hoffman.
Oh, down in
was it good because of the circumstances, or was it awesome because of your second shooter?
It was not my second shooter. No, the people were amazing. The details were incretible. What were there 375 people at that wedding?
Yeah, a lot.
Wow.
It was stunning. It was so awesome. The people were amazing.
Wait, Nicole, did you get hit with a lot of postponements or no?
3 so far, and then I have 1 that's most likely going to get postponed. They're waiting it out a couple more weeks.
How far out were you seeing the postponements coming in, or?
Like when they're rescheduling too?
No, like how far out from now? Like May?
May is the furthest, mid-May. And then I feel bad because one of them had to postpone theirs a whole year.
That's rough.
Next like March, and then one of them pushed it to this October, I think. But I actually shot a smaller wedding, the Friday, I guess it was the 13th, Friday the 13th. Right when like everybody was starting to like stay home and quarantine, whatever. And the bride, like I texted her that morning and I was like, hey, so everything's still going on. It was like, I was only doing like 5 hours coverage. It was a smaller wedding. I think they had like 70 guests. But everybody there was like acting like nothing was going on.
Yeah.
Some like a little girl was running around coughing at cocktail hour.
Oh God! Did you punch her right in the fucking head?
I was just using hand sanitizer like crazy, but people were like shaking my hands and hugging me, and I was like,
"Fuck that." What's
going on right now?
I had that weekend too in Montgomery County where it was like all the shit was going down, and I was talking to the lead shooter and she was talking to the bride like twice a day leading up to it. And it was just like, hey, we still good? All right, they're shutting down venues. All right, they're not shutting down. They're recommending they shut down. The venue's like, nope, we're still going. So it was, and then when we got there, everybody was pretty good at keeping their distance. But the instinct is still to go up and shake everybody's hand and all that kind of shit. It was tough, but I went through a shit ton of hand sanitizer.
Oh yeah, I was just constantly
drinking it. The smart thing was the I told the leacher, I was like, if I get fucking coronavirus and you don't, I'm gonna be so pissed because I ate the food. I was like, somebody coughed on this fucking food and I get it, and you don't, I'm gonna be so fucking mad. No, but she brought her own food and water, and I was like, and so did I.
I didn't even think about it.
So did I, but then I got to dinner and I was like,
I would have
fucking starving.
I would have ate it.
I did.
I didn't even think of that, and mine was a buffet. So
I
it was
did
all
not
the guests.
eat. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's terrible. I was say I did not eat cocktail hour because I was like, these people are fucking all over this shit. And that normally I do. But.
See, I don't really think about. I don't know. I'm not like a germaphobe, so this has been a hard adjustment for me.
Well,
you
just had 2 weeks, so you're fine.
well, no. My best friend's dad just got his test results today. He's positive for coronavirus, and we were together on the 14th and the 15th. And so that was a week and a half ago. But
did
they
you kiss him?
No.
Oh, you're probably fine.
But they think so. They live. My friend and her husband live with her parents in like a mother-daughter kind of house, and they think that her husband brought it home. He's a UPS delivery driver.
It's happening a lot, right? Amazon workers are
and he delivers in Lakewood, where they haven't been really listening to the rules, and they've been having big gatherings, and
the numbers are going to go up. Listen.
That makes me so upset because I've been following those rules about like wiping down the boxes and all that kind of shit all like this whole time, except for today, right before this episode. I got
you licked the box.
No, I got a delivery. I was like super excited about. So I like as soon as he dropped it off, I was like, "Yup, got it!" And I brought it in the house and like opened the box, took the shit out, threw the box back outside, and then washed my hands. And I'm like, I was leaving him out there for like overnight or something. I just on the front porch, like just to like. Let's let it air out a little bit.
It is wild though how it's spreading.
Yeah, I haven't been doing that, but I do wash my hands a lot more than I used to.
We wipe down pretty much everything, not out of fear, just
even Ted.
Kind of like wipe down me.
But but are you even leaving the house?
Like we wipe stuff. Yeah, like when we get mail, we wipe stuff down as much as we can.
Yeah,
it's wet. But like if we go to the grocery store, we bring everything in and put it on the table. And we individually take each thing out, wipe it out, and then put it on the counter in the clean area. And hopefully that helps.
We're pretty much at a point where
I wish I did that. I don't.
We're pretty much at a point where we're not leaving our house anyway at this point. So
listen, I literally have a live specimen of it that walks in every single night. Like I don't know that wiping down my mail is going to be a good defense. But
yeah, my
husband got to spray her with the hose.
Well, my wife works with the patients. So it's like,
so that's
whatever.
Just hit her with some holy water and spray her down with the
That's
hose.
what I do, but I don't know if that's working for this one.
Sage her when she walks in.
Yeah, she's fine. She changes now. She doesn't come in the house with her scrubs, but.
Well, that's what my friend, the
she
UPS
changed
driver,
that fucking attitude.
No.
my friend he'll take off his uniform and put it right in the laundry, like his gloves, whatever, and then before he comes in the house. And I mean, there's no way to know how anybody gets it.
What does he do for work?
The person I was talking about is my friend. He's a UPS driver. My husband does. He works for like a water. I don't even know what you would call their company. They like lay water lines and stuff like that. Right now, they're doing a job on
like a utility worker.
Say utility company.
I mean, kind of, but yeah, like a private company. But they have a job right now. They're doing a lot of water lines in Beach Haven.
Cool. Oh, he's a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I can't really explain what he does. He just comes home with a lot of money.
He builds skyscrapers at Beach Haven.
It's a private company. Mind your fucking business.
Until they shut down like Long Beach Township or whatever, he's gonna still have to go to work. But he doesn't see a lot of people at work. It's just like his crew, and they don't touch anything.
He only has one-on-one meetings, hand exchanges. I get it.
The UPS one is coming like
sketchy
in strong now because the Amazon workers, a ton of them have it now from the warehouses. Like,
yeah, I think two of his supervisors at his UPS like plant or whatever location, two of his supervisors just tested positive recently. So
fuck.
I don't think it's
I'm not happy
feasible
about
to
this
like
now.
sanitize all the boxes coming in and stuff. It's just not going to
no.
happen.
And that's
We
what I
do
told my
it.
wife. Like, there's
Clorox
so
wipe it.
many ways we can get this. Like, so many different ways. If you think about every single place, something.
Ted, you just got it from Grubhub today. What are you talking about?
I mean, I could.
Yeah, you for sure got it.
The mail carriers literally go and touch mailboxes around the entire county, and like we touch the mailbox.
I was thinking about it today when I got the mail. I was like,
mail.
"Ooh, I should wash
Like,
my hands."
Everything, every single thing. So
Yeah, but you're doing something about it, right? You're washing your hands.
Yeah,
You're doing this kind of things. When you, so I'll say Mike probably has a feel for this too. I was talking to somebody at a wedding, and they're like, "What do you feel about it? Like, does it feel weird? Like it was that weekend where it was starting to get out of control." It was like, I have the same feelings I have if I were like to go into a radiation area with no instrumentation, right? Like, because you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, can't touch it. It's just there, right? Just like the germs. You're like, I'm just uncomfortable because I don't know where it is. So I can take extra precautions, right? Think about germs like we talk about contamination, right? It's like you touch paint, right? So if you put your fingers in paint and then you touch something else, every time you touch something, less and less will be on there. If you wash your hands and then go touch something, the chances of there being paint or germs on it is going to be significantly less, right? So if you take those steps after you touch the thing that you think is contaminated with germs or whatever, you're lessening your probability of spreading that or spreading it to yourself. And for this, you have to ingest or inhale it, right? So, if you're going to touch something, don't touch your face immediately after. Wash your hands and get in there. So, fun stuff.
This topic.
I don't know. I went to teaching mode for a second there. Sorry.
We're supposed to be talking about weddings, but I guess
we are talking about weddings.
It's a big part of weddings right now.
We are talking weddings. That was an anecdote from a wedding.
Oh, you're right. Totally right. Yeah, there you go.
I think for the future weddings coming up this year, one of the new favorite options can be little things of hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Like it. You know where I got my hand sanitizer? So funny. So they were like, I was one of those people who was like, it's not gonna, I'm not gonna rush out and go get fucking toilet paper and hand sanitizer and shit like that. It's probably not there anyway. And we tried to order it a couple of times and it was nowhere. And I'm like, fuck it. At this point, I got it at Pet Value. It was
smart.
It was $3 as a donation, and you got a free little thing of hand sanitizer. It was $3 donation to like the War Dogs or something like that. And it was like this little squeeze thing of hand sanitizer on a carabiner. And I was like, they're like, oh, you want to make a donation? I'm like, yeah, I'll make 4. Like, give me fucking hand sanitizer.
Well, we found all of our Lysol and stuff at Lowe's. Most people weren't looking there. And I forget what I was getting, and they had like shelves of it. They're like, no one looks here. Too. What?
Yep. They had toilet paper at Lowe's too.
That's sandpaper. What are you using?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm surprised they
Sasquatches and baby buffaloes need to use sandpaper. 120 grit.
They were very cool. Yeah.
Mike, what happened over there, man?
My one light died. Playing with my settings.
He's sipping into darkness.
Make it happen, dude.
Going
Turn
back
the
in
fucking
time.
lights on. Oh, there he goes.
Helicopters.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time for story time.
I like it. Hit us with a story, Mike.
I don't have any.
So funny.
Goosebumps.
Well, dude, this is. Oh, what? Goosebumps? No. Are you?
Why would you say that before bed?
Are you afraid of the dark?
Oh yeah. Are you afraid of the dark? That's what it is. Yeah.
Yes. Can we drop the intro?
They just remade that.
They did.
Oh, we doing the Audible thing?
No.
What? What are you talking about?
We talked about it all day. Even what am I talking about?
We talked about it once. All right.
Oh, now my shutter speed is so slow that I'm like moonwalking.
Yeah, what's happening? What is this? The early 2000s webcams?
She mentioned Goosebumps, and now you guys have to look at this. It's scary.
It's disturbing.
Don't play that sound.
What sound? I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. What are we doing? Is this over?
This Yikes. Out in the doll. Ooh. That was dope. All right, seriously though, this was awesome. I feel like this is like the most. What the fuck is happening? Get out of here! Ugh, Jesus Christ! This was super awesome. I feel like we learned. This is like the most educational episode yet. Like we learned so much and kind of stayed on topic too, for at least a little bit. Kind of cool. But thanks so much for coming on. Seriously, it was a blast.
Of course.
So much fun.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was fantastic, Nicole. Appreciate it.
Hey, if people want to find you online, it's Nicole Klim, right? For your photography business?
Yeah, Nicole Klim Photography. And then Instagram is nklim photo.
How do you spell Klim?
KLYM.
Nice. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
there you go. There you have it, people. Reach out. Check out her photos. Give her all the likes and follows. And don't follow her in real life. That shit's weird. Don't do that.
Well, especially right now.
That's against the law.
I'm not going very far.
Stand back.
Tell me about the